Let's have a conversation about those who are Sagittarius. If you know someone who's Sagittarius, send this to them. And then you who's Sagittarius, let me know in the comment section whether this relates to you. Where do we begin? Must we start with your sugar addiction? Because let's call it for what it is, Sagittarius. If you're going to be as empathic as you are in your zodiac sign, you must also know the consequences of your empath nature. If you don't know what an empath is, just know that most of the Sagittarius zodiac signs are an empath from the stomach, which means a lot of what the stomach represents identifies with you, either in a good way or a bad way. Kind of like dopamine. Dopamine can either motivate you to do the good or motivate you to do the bad. Either way, you will find a friend, and that's exactly what a Sagittarius is really good at. So, when it comes to sugar, if a Sagittarius was not given love and affection, and they were kind of like abandoned. Very specifically, they were abandoned in nurturing. They start developing a very independent mindset very early on, like very, very early on. So they become very entrepreneurial in their thinking, which is why most Sagittarius people don't want to do what everybody else does, and they want to study or work as hard as possible to have their own unique independent thing, which is again with this empath energy, because empaths are very unique. They can't sit in a classroom and feel comfortable. They can't do the 9 to 5. And even if you are a Sagittarius who's in a 9 to 5, I can tell you now you're daydreaming about how the hell to leave or to work up to a point where you are the leader, you are the boss, or you have flexibility. And this is all to do with your zodiac energy. So keep in mind also, Sagittarius, you're not just out just saying, oh, I'm Sagittarius in my sun, and you think that's enough. This message resonates to those who are really Sag in their natal chart, in their birth chart. So go check your birth chart, see how Sagittarius you are. And that's how you can resonate deeply with this. Those who say some of it connects and some of it doesn't, it's because 9 times out of 10, your birth chart might only have Sagittarius in your sun and nowhere else, which means you dominantly another zodiac sign as opposed to Sagittarius. But you who's deeply Sagittarius, you have a very, very strong connection to that stomach area. That stomach area is also the very place that you nurture, while sugar becomes the nurturer and also the addiction, because, you don't say Sagittarius without saying addiction, and that's why they love friends. Oh, to get a friend, do the thing that they're addicted to, whether it is going out all the time, whether it is drinking all the time, whether it's smoking. A Sagittarius will always make friends, and the quality of the friends are locked onto the vice that attaches to the Sag. And that complexity and that variability of what could happen, especially now that they feel everyone feels safe and everyone's together, this is why they get attached to those environments. But they also tire themselves out and they need alone time. They won't say it, Sag won't say it, but they really enjoy alone time. Like, you will see them one weekend, they're out here, party, and then the next weekend, they just want to be in their own space. And suddenly they want to speak introspectively, and suddenly they want to be very deep. But they're not deep with everybody. They flipping only deep with particular people because they struggle with vulnerability. Remember, if you've never been nurtured, Sagittarius, by your mother and father in your unique sensitivity, especially linked to your intuition, where the hell are you going to just tell all the amount of friends you have will never know the depth of who you are. But you yourself will also not know the depth of who you are, because Sagittarius is very good at distracting themselves. Whether it's getting another PhD, whether it's striving to be a leader, whether it's striving to be the head of something again, I always call it distraction, because I'm like, you're running away from yourself. There's more to you that has nothing to do with using the masculine and the analytical and, what could and the control. This has everything to do with what you don't know, the intuition. Sagittarius is so empathic. When they in these community spaces, they make the best hosts. When they're hosting a dinner, they'll know exactly what everybody needs. They'll cater to everybody's needs. They are conscientious, but it's like you're using your gift now, unconsciously, to people please. And I'm saying there's nothing wrong with people pleasing if you do it once in a while, but if you do it consistently, week in, week out, your stomach is gonna take a knock. I know it. Aries, flippin' Aries, looking for attention. So if you were Sagittarius, you have to care for that stomach of yours, because the stomach is going to take a massive knock. Equally so, the disruptive sleep that takes place with you. Sagittarius is known for having very, very poor sleep. The process of falling asleep is not a gentle environment. They can be up late into the night, but this has again everything to do with their intuitive nature. They feel very closer to nighttime because that's the time where hopefully most human beings are resting. And that frequency in the energy out there, wherever you are in the world, that nighttime energy does something for a Sagittarius. But I'll sit there and say, hey, Sagittarius, it does something for all intuitives. The only thing is you just don't like talking about it, opening up about it. And 9 times out of 10, if you ever open up about it, you're either telling a Pisces, you're either telling a Cancer, you're either telling a Scorpio, you're either telling an Aquarius, or you're telling a Leo. You're never far away from this intuitive nature that you literally distract yourself from, and then you think you're far away from it. That's why you always pull towards leaders and people who do really well. Like they can have an affinity for like following a leader, a person who is up there in the echelons. And it's normally to fulfill an area in your life that wasn't fulfilled in a healthy way, which is either the relationship with mother or father, masculine or feminine. So these constructs outside of you become these, references of what you seek to ambitiously achieve. But there's a emptiness in your stomach that is not being fulfilled because your depth, your knowledge comes from inside, not outside. And if a Sagittarius is distracted by the outside consistently, then they become codependent on the outside to consistently keep them distracted. When that environment fades away, and as they intuitively grow, and the older Sagittarius gets, they get very contemplative. And that's when they learn the lessons. But throw them in the deep end immediately. Get them too deep. Anyone who's a Sagittarius under 30 is not yet ready. Sagittarius only is ready to start doing this flippin' plant-based ayahuasca, all those funny things when they hit the 40s, 50s, when life has humbled them enough to realize, okay, cool, so the external is not entertaining me. And it's the same thing with your relationships. You will find that you can fall very quickly into a relationship, quickly into a friendship. Watch how those things fade away. And then there's this loneliness that you go through, quietness that you go through, contemplation kicks in, and hopefully you just know that you are way more sensitive than you realize. And we mustn't let the consequence of our environment, mom and dad, if they didn't nurture you, we mustn't let that now become this idea of let's pretend, people please, and act like everything is fine, and ride on this leadership quality, our creative quality, and everybody kind of validates that aspect of you. But there's a whole feminine depth, intuitive depth, spiritual depth that goes deep, that must also be cared for and looked after. And it can only be cared for and looked after when we look after the stomach, when we care for the stomach, when you connect to nature, connect to the sun. Allow the sleeping period to be a sleeping period. When the moon is up, see how deep you can go in your gentle sleep and allow flow to take place. When this happens, Sagittarius, you start having phenomenal dreams, phenomenal visions. You don't lose your intuition. Intuition is always there. You lose the connection when you're distracted. And if the stomach dictates what you're eating, if the stomach dictates what you feel, and if the quality of your stomach in not processing emotions, feeling emotions, allowing it to work through you, that's why most Sagittarius, they're big babies, they cry, but you will never say that person cries because you never see them flippin' cry. The emotions is sitting there. If the health of your stomach is not movement and there's no flow, Yeah, no, then you sit with a lot of stomach issues, a lot of womb issues. Hysterectomies become very common. Infertility among Sagittarius men become very common. Struggling to conceive, very common. Keep this in mind. It's an energetic understanding that has a physical health consequence. And same thing with the addiction. If the stomach, emotions-wise, is not looked after, then the sugar addiction is up there. Then diabetes is also linked to being Sagittarius. Because you're so sensitive that you don't realize that you're using sugar to nurture something that is a trauma, and that sugar is not going to nurture it. But you guys don't just ask for help, right? Yeah. So then you're not going to really be aware of it, and it's going to be your normal. But there's an aspect of emptiness in that depth that needs to be grounded. So if you're really into this, if this connected with you, please do share in the comment section, let me know. And equally so, know that there's a Sagittarius bootcamp coming up next year in 2025. So if you're interested in signing up or learning more about what exactly this bootcamp is going to be all about, you got a nice theory in this video. The practical is what we're going to do. In how to care for the sensitive nature, how to build a good sleep cycle, how to understand the depth of your sensitivity according to the zodiac sign of Sagittarius, and how to work into the strengths of your zodiac sign and not work against the flow. So just email us if you really are interested. But other than that, let me know whether this resonates, and send it to someone who's Sagittarius. Or maybe don't. They might get too shy and be like, oh, no, this doesn't connect. Meanwhile.